Tom Fliss is a board-certified and licensed behavior analyst and licensed clinical professional counselor who has more than 20 years of experience working with children and adults diagnosed with developmental disability across multiple settings, including in home, schools, inpatient, outpatients, and out in the community. He currently serves as the clinical director for the Center for Autism and as the behavioral services manager for inpatient units at Shepherd Pratt in Baltimore, Maryland, the nation's largest private nonprofit provider of mental health, substance use, special education, developmental disability, and social services. Carl Grimes is a school psychologist and mental health counselor with SPG Therapy and Education, one of the largest multidisciplinary providers in California. Grimes boasts expertise in school-based mental health, JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and Disability Identification. She has a background in theater, film, and digital production, and advocates for therapeutic storytelling through arts, education, drama therapy, and psychoeducation. Michelle Patistides is a learning specialist and certified coach at Beacon College in Leesburg, Florida, America's first accredited college or university dedicated to educating students with learning and attention issues. A former public school teacher with a master's degree in special education focused on varying exceptionalities, she specializes in strengths-based student support techniques, teaching, and program development skills. And we're going to start our conversation with Tom. So Tom, tell me, why is homework such a struggle sometimes for children with learning and attention issues?
Yeah, to answer that question, we really have to look at the learning process as a whole. The ultimate goal of learning in a traditional classroom setting is to cast as wide of a net as possible, but that net can't catch all, right? So if this one-size-fits-all approach, well, there really isn't a one-size-fits-all when it comes to our kids' learning. Students with learning difficulties or differences might not be able to register or process that information in the same way that their neurotypical peers might. So when homework is centered around the way that neurotypical students learn, students with learning differences might experience challenges like having difficulties understanding or becoming distracted from their work. So that's one. I think not understanding or having the tools to solve those academic problems in the classroom is certainly going to generalize to other areas, such as completing homework. And look, I think this point is very relatable to parents themselves. Concepts being taught to our kids today are very different than when we were kids. When I'm helping my own child with their math homework, he's completing them correctly, but I have no idea how he came to that conclusion, right? And that is frustrating to me as a parent. So just imagine how overwhelming it is for our students who have difficulties with learning and attention, especially when their performance is being assessed and graded. Another thing I want to point out is the environment itself. Kids may have sensory needs or sensory aversions, and if the home environment is loud, disruptive, or distracting in any way, that can certainly make completing those assignments difficult. So again, difficulties in the learning process and learning environment both can lead to those struggles that some students experience.
Thank you for that, and thank you for giving me a PTSD flashback about helping my child with homework, Tom. So Cara, what are some of the common challenges that students with learning and attention issues face when completing homework?
Sure. There is a variety of different challenges that students with learning challenges can experience. It's largely going to depend on what your student's personal learning experience is like. Some common ones can be emotional regulation concerns, difficulty focusing on school and classwork as a whole, especially when that classwork is brought home into a different environment. They could also be experiencing fatigue. Think of how we feel after a long day of work and all kinds of different interactions we have with our coworkers and other people, then having to come home and you might have to take back more work. It can be really strenuous and really stressful, and your children are experiencing something similar, especially if they're neurodiverse. Also, anxiety and even overstimulation, coming back from school with the loud noises, bright lights, children laughing, play. All of these things can generalize in the home setting when they're completing schoolwork. And generally, what challenges your student experiences in the school setting will usually follow them back home. But with the difference of environment in home, it's likely going to be a little bit different than it is at school. Probably less children, less teachers, less movement, less transitions. But depending on their experience at home and their experience at school, these things will follow themselves back and forth.
All right, well, thank you. So, Michelle, obviously the frustration that builds when you're having struggles with homework can possibly lead to emotional outbursts from children. How can parents help to turn the temperature down on that and help their kids power through the homework assignments?
That's such a great question, Daryl. Yeah, that happens and it's going to happen. So, when those emotional challenges start intensifying, that's when parents really need to know, okay, it's time to take a break. Um, Children stop benefiting from the homework, and when their emotions are starting to derail them and their parents, important to take that time out. Um, Parents know their children. You know what you can do to help them calm down. Something like some deep breathing, maybe taking a walk, listening to music. Once the child has been out of that emotional challenge period, then they can come back and after that de escalation, resume once they're calm again. And that's when it's time to resume the homework, not before. It's important also to remember to just keep those positive structures and routines and predictable setups for doing homework, and also knowing, okay, this is time to take a break, and we'll come back to this a little bit later.
All right, thank you, Michelle. So, Tom, if you have a child who's having these homework struggles and he's banging his head against a brick wall night after night after night doing this homework and not having much success, are there any long-term implications with these challenges for the student?
Yes, absolutely. And again, if you think about it, as we go through the school year, students are forming those building blocks to be able to solve and answer more complex problems. When a student is struggling to learn those basic building blocks of the material that's being taught, that can be incredibly frustrating for them and make it very difficult for them to perform in academia. So what implications does that have? This can decrease their confidence. It could lead to thoughts that they don't measure up with their peers. They can have a lot of negative self-talk. Certainly can have an impact on self-esteem, and most likely it does. Kids who have trouble with their homework could have increased anxiety at homework time, and it's highly likely that they will have a significant amount of anxiety that builds over time. This might lead to a number of things. They might begin to get frustrated. They may have, it could lead to possibly outbursts or episodes of anger. If parents and teachers don't address those issues early on, those problems can certainly lead to a snowball effect. When left unresolved, that frustration could really spark some behavioral issues at home and out in the community, as well as the child thinking really negatively about themselves.
So, Cara, there is a raging debate about the value and benefit of doing homework in the first place, but I'm wondering whether children with learning and attention issues do get any benefits from doing homework on a nightly basis or whenever it's assigned.
Sure. Homework for learning diverse students can be very beneficial in a lot of different ways. Particularly, it gives them the opportunity to practice their learning supports and their learning goals in a safe, low stakes environment like home, especially when parents are working with them and helping them through different struggles that they're experiencing doing their homework. It can support them as far as positive supports, praising them for different learning skills that they're developing that are good. Some examples could be, I really liked how you worked hard. I really liked how you took your time and took a break. Very specific key skills that you can observe and help support for that student to learn how to practice and build their mastery and fluency at home so that they can then bring that to school and continue to build their comfort with their schoolwork and with their students.
Okay. So Michelle, at the risk of being Captain Obvious, can you share with us some signs that a student is in distress and needs help because they're struggling with homework?
Sure, Daryl. So, students, neurodiverse students who are struggling and need more help with homework will show a variety of signs. It's very individual to the student, but some of these signs include not being able to complete the homework. Um, Maybe the homework is taking longer than usual. Um, and so these things can indicate a problem with the child struggling with the content or instructions, grades dropping. Parents may receive outreach and concerns from the school, behavioral and or academic, from the teacher. And then one of the most concerning is absenteeism. So when students are really struggling and they, start to shut down, some of them will just stop going to school. So that's a concern, and that can happen even if the struggle is just in one significant class. So lots of different things can happen, and we need to be aware of how we can support these students through that, getting that extra help when they do need it.
All right. So, Tom, we were half kidding earlier about the plague that is homework, but I'm wondering how parents can help to create a positive and productive environment for the child to attack his homework assignments at home.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Cara earlier did a really nice job of emphasizing providing that support and encouragement. We really, as parents, have to take the time to help our kids and have patience. Patience. It is key and important. When we see our child is struggling, the last thing we should do is become frustrated when they aren't understanding a concept. Look, all people and all parents get frustrated. Nobody's perfect. It just means that, we're human. Parents are busy. They may be exhausted after a long day of work. Look, my own kids would attest that I don't bring my A game every single time that I help them out with their homework. But I think there are three things that are important after those times where we're not helpful. One, I think us as parents, we acknowledge that that didn't go well. Right? And so, two, I think if we acknowledge that and we're beating ourselves up as parents, that we weren't able to provide the help that our child needed, I think it's important to give ourselves grace and realize that there are going to be a lot more opportunities in the future. And three, which I think is most important, is to be able to identify what went wrong and make plans to change those things in the future, to really identify those learning barriers and adjust. If our kids are coming to us with a problem that is already frustrating to them, responding with frustration is only going to increase that anxiety around homework time. What ultimately this might lead to is they might not ask. They won't get the help they need. They will actively avoid homework time. So again, identify those barriers in learning, find different ways to engage with our kids while doing homework, make it fun, use visuals, make a game out of it, offer a lot of encouragement to make sure that they're getting what they need.
Okay. So, Cara, how can parents find the tools they need to help their kids stay focused and to avoid distractions? Or I guess better way to ask that is, are there tools and strategies they can employ to minimize the distractions and to increase their kids' focus during homework sessions?
Definitely. There's a whole world of supports out there to help your student learn how to really apply themselves in ways that makes them feel good and confident in completing schoolwork at home. If your student is receiving supports at school or has an IEP, likely those supports will be listed in that document as far as what's being practiced at school. And with parents being a very integral part of the IEP team, a part of that conversation, working with school professionals and specialists trained to help your student learn better in school, is to also help teach some of those skills at home. Also, there's all kinds of different supports as far as like tutoring supports, reaching out to school counselors, school psychologists, learning specialists at school that observe your student in the learning environment at school and can suggest different skills that they can work on at home. And of course, there's community supports and websites and things of that nature that are all geared towards helping your child reach the highest successes that they can. And in the home setting, when you're really sitting down with your kid and really trying to help them work through such a big monster as trying to get through homework at home, there's different supports that you can use. One of my favorites to teach parents is called chunking. And chunking is quite literally chunking a large assignment into smaller workable pieces. You can do that visually by having different questions on different pages and having your child work to maybe question 3, have a break, then maybe work through 3 through 6, and so on and so forth. I also like to teach chunking with movement breaks, sensory breaks between different benchmarks in their homework load for the day. Different ways just to help them also emotionally regulate, get some of that energy out, and practice refocusing and attending to a task in different settings.
All right, thank you. So, Michelle, let's talk about one of the most, I guess, difficult balancing acts. It's kind of a tightrope walk for parents, finding the right balance between providing them support when they're doing their homework and actually doing the assignment for the child. How do parents manage that?
That's a tough one for parents to navigate, Daryl, especially parents with neurodiverse children, because they are so used to and wanting to advocate for their students to make sure that they're being supported and getting the supports they need. But there is that fine line, and we don't want parents to do the homework for them, even though it can get tempting at times, often due to the parent's own frustration. And so basically, keep in mind that by doing too much, it's creating a dependency on the parent and not fostering the student's own self initiative, confidence, pride, and need for that important skills practice that Cara was talking about earlier. So, want to watch that fine line and make sure that the support is provided. Making sure that the student understands the directions for the assignment. Maybe the student's stuck because they need to go through the instructions again. Kara was talking just before about chunking and breaking it down into manageable parts. So helping the student do that and then doing one part at a time. Another great technique is having the child explain back to you, the parent, what their understanding of the assignment is. And once they do that, then be available for them, but not necessarily right there hovering with them. Now, of course, it depends on the age of your child, but you want to be providing those positive, gentle, and clear feedback and instructions, help with the missing parts when clarification is required, but maybe be off to the side somewhere where the student can know that they can call on mom or dad for help, but not that the parent will be doing the assignment for them them or fully with them, so that the child then gets that confidence and gets that needed skills practice. But it is such a tricky thing. And some parents realize that it might be needed if they're able to use tutoring services or other supports as well. There are so many supports available. So a combination of factors is to be considered, but it is a tough one. But don't do that homework for the student, and do keep encouraging them in a positive way.
All right. So, Tom, as you know, children with learning differences often struggle with executive functioning skills. And I'm wondering, how can parents help students effectively manage their time when they're doing their homework assignments?
Yeah, another great question. Michelle earlier talked about being consistent, and that is really important here. We really need to set an expectation by making homework time at a set time each day, but still be flexible enough in case things change due to school activities or appointments. For some kids, what might work is right after school. For other kids, it's been a long day at school. They need that break. So waiting a bit of time before tackling those homework assignments. But I think the bottom line here is that we're not waiting until bedtime or the last minute to complete these assignments. We have, if our kids are struggling and developing anxiety, this is really just going to build that anxiety throughout the evening and through the night. Creating time, it can be frustrating for parents and students, certainly after having a hard day. But again, blocking out that time period, parents can be a part of that process by helping their child identify those challenges that come up. And being able to do it sooner in the day gives everybody that time later in the evening to do things that they enjoy.
All right. So, Cara, as a school psychologist, how do you advise parents to communicate effectively with their children's teachers about homework and the troubles they're having with it?
Yes. As a school psychologist, my typical interactions with parents are in IEP meetings, individual education plan meetings, or when providing consultation if a parent sends out an email or is just asking for support for a variety of different challenges that their child is experiencing. The best way that I can advise to work with school teams for parents and between everyone who's interacting with your child educationally is to keep your approaches child-centered. I can't stress this enough. A lot of the times, from an education standpoint, we're thinking about grades, test scores, getting through the day. And from a parent's perspective, might also be thinking about grades, just wanting the best for your school, maybe thinking about how best for them to get into college or other goals. But we have to think about what your child is experiencing in the moment with very specific challenges. Parents are 100% experts on their child, but also keep in mind that your child is 100% an expert on themselves and their learning experience. So taking your child's feedback on what they're experiencing in school, what their challenges are, and how they express that will then inform parents and teachers to work together on how to create supports that are meaningful for the child so that they can be successful in all of their endeavors in the school system.
All right, well, thank you. So, Michelle, you get to close it out for us today. So, you're basically going to help us summarize our conversation by giving us some additional practical strategies and tips for parents to help their children find success when it comes to completing homework.
Thanks, Daryl. So, yeah, I mean, there's lots of factors to consider that we've been talking about. Tom was just talking about the importance of the routine, that set routine, maybe earlier in the day after the child comes back from school. So the setting is also really important. Have their work area be clean slate, but with maybe some stimulation toys that they like, not too many, but enough where they're comfortable. Have the work area organized in a way that's attractive and comfortable for your child so that it's a comfortable place for them to come and a consistent place with good lighting, a comfortable chair, a nice desk area. And so those routines and sticking to those routines, again, with some flexibility, of course, but having that be just a routine part of the day, incorporating a snack, knowing when to take a break. All of those things are so helpful. Also, some of our neurodiverse children need to know the why of their homework. So, taking the time to explain to them, because some of them don't understand, they perceive home as the place for rest and relaxation and family and friends, and school as the place to do schoolwork. So, taking the time to explain the why of homework and the benefits of homework can be very helpful. Also, providing a motivator. Children, we all need motivators, right? So, especially our neurodiverse children, you know what they love to do. And so, incentive based interests to help motivate them for their consistency and their hard work is very important as well. And I'm interested in some age appropriate mindfulness techniques. There's been a lot of research, and we know that deep breathing and things that will help the students focus better can be very helpful. With young children, they can do some buddy breathing with a stuffed animal and get centered and focused before homework, or even when they're needing to take a break before they go back to it. So, lots of things we can do to help our neurodiverse students succeed at winning this homework battle, and their parents.
All right. Well, that's going to be our final word. Tom Fliss, Cara Grimes, and Michelle Patistides, thank you for the knowledge.